seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break.
Term 2. Jaden is a 14-year-old male Year 9 student who is quite close to his single mother. He is an only child. At the end of Term 1, Jaden's mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. This has become a form of social disadvantage, greatly impacting on Jaden's home life, as she is not around most of the time whilst receiving treatment in hospital.
The following circumstances, which are impacting greatly on Jaden, are recognised to be interrelated in nature. However, for the purpose of an in-depth exploration of these concerns, they have been divided into the following categories.
Recently, Jaden has been underperforming in a number of subjects at school and is not handing in any assignments. He is also missing classes for multiple subjects a week. When Jaden does come to class, he appears to be quite stressed and is acting out in what appears to be bursts of aggression directed towards the teacher. He also is experiencing relational difficulties with his peers, intentionally isolating himself from his friends and classmates and appearing disengaged and unwilling to participate in group activities. He has been spotted on the playground on multiple occasions sitting by himself and swearing at his friends whenever they encourage him to participate.
When a parent is diagnosed with cancer, it can have a profound impact on the child. Impacts include changes in living routines, roles within the family, and relationships. In particular, there is evidence to suggest that due to the stress associated with the illness, depression can develop. As a result, decreased psychological availability can lead to a lack of discipline support for the child.
Jaden has previously been quite a motivated student who willingly engaged in group activities and would often volunteer to be the leader of class discussions. After his mother's diagnosis, Jaden became withdrawn from class discussions and refuses to participate in group teaching and learning activities. Recently, when Jaden's teacher has tried to include him in group tasks as well as class discussion, Jaden has refused to cooperate by saying, "No, I'm not doing it." And when instruction is repeated by the teacher, Jaden has aggressively pushed back his chair and stormed out of the classroom. This is of great concern as Jaden's teacher is unable to follow him outside of the classroom when there is no support staff to stay with the rest of the class. Other students in the class, noticing Jaden's defiance, have started to refuse instruction, commenting that, "If Jaden doesn't have to do the work, then why do I?" This makes it difficult for the classroom teacher to effectively manage their lesson and deliver content to the students to achieve the prescribed learning outcomes.
Thomas, Bierman and group suggest that student aggression may contribute to the development of further aggressive issues. In addition, displays of aggression in the classroom can become normalised and consequently, students can hold the belief their behaviour is socially acceptable. Students then learn that it is appropriate to continue antisocial behaviour. The impact this behaviour has on other students can be negative, as peers can sometimes model the aggressive behaviour when it becomes reinforced. In short, grouping students with this similar behaviour increases the rate of exposure to aggressive actions. Research also shows that aggressive behaviour in the classroom can make it very difficult for teachers to build positive relationships with students and use effective behaviour management strategies to maintain control of the classroom. The impact of this inability to implement effective behaviour management strategies results in teachers frequently resorting to coercive and punitive discipline practice that ironically serve to increase rather than inhibit student defiance. Lastly, students exposed to aggressive peers can be susceptible to stressful experiences in the classroom.
During recess, lunch and sport, Jaden now often sits by himself and tends to ignore other students when they ask if he would like to join in their activities. Recently, there was an incident on the basketball courts where Jaden was encouraged by his peers to join their game. Jaden refused, but his peers continued to insist Jaden join the game. At this point, Jaden became aggravated and aggressively pushed one of the students, picking up the basketball and violently throwing it away from his friend's group. As a consequence of this action, the ball hit a Year 7 student in the face and fractured their nose. Jaden is also reluctant to follow reasonable instructions from teachers on playground supervision when asked to move away from out-of-bounds areas. Furthermore, the other day when Jaden was announced to have received an award in an assembly for outstanding performance in English for Term 1, he refused to go up in front of the school to collect it. Afterwards, when the principal asked him how he was, Jaden shrugged his shoulders and walked away without responding.
Research also suggests that parental cancer causes increased risk of psychological and social difficulties for the child. For example, issues can manifest in school as misbehaviour in the classroom and withdrawal from daily social routines. In this case, Jaden is displaying aggressive behaviour inside and outside of the classroom and is socially withdrawn in all aspects of his school life.
So Jaden just had another aggressive outburst today. He's never in class, and when he's there, he never cooperates. When was the last time he handed an assignment in on time?
It is really difficult for him at the moment though. I mean, his mum's really unwell, so he's got a lot going on.
He's blatantly rude. I understand he's going through a lot, but I think he's just now using it as an excuse not to get work done.
Yeah, I think it's a much more complex issue than that. I think that we maybe need to go through more of a process before we just kind of jump to that step.
Yeah, I agree. There's more to this. I was reading the Supporting Students' Behaviour Needs document, which is on the department website, and I think it's a good process to follow when implementing a behaviour support plan. The document states that behaviour involves words and acts that communicate need. Schools recognise this aim to support individual students' needs, so basically stating defined steps to support and strategies to best support the students' needs as well.
I also agree. We need to actually implement strategies to support Jaden before jumping to conclusions. Have you heard of the Supported Students, Successful Students Initiative?
No.
No? Well, it's a student wellbeing services which tailors student wellbeing programs around the students in their particular school. This funding provides additional support for individual students and also allows us to run whole school welfare programs to improve engagement. Maybe we could use this initiative to improve our peer support program.
But what does it exactly entail? They bring out these initiatives and policies, but what do they really mean?
I think we really can support these students more effectively in our schools. I think we need to take initiative, otherwise it's not going to happen and we're just going to keep turning to punitive measures.
Yeah, well, it says here that the program entails provision of a school counsellor, so funding support for schools to develop and implement a comprehensive and inclusive whole school approach to positive behaviour and learning, schools' ability to introduce a wellbeing framework linked to school planning and accountability through the school excellence framework, a wellbeing self-assessment tool for schools as well, and easily accessible, it looks like clear information to develop wellbeing strategies.
See, this is great. You mentioned that it's got the support schools planning, and that other document clearly states implementing strategies. I think that we have school policies on our side. We can do this. I think that what we need to do is make a plan and follow a structured process to help support Jaden.
I don't know. Well, the new behavior code for students empowers principals to take decisive action where student behavior disrupts the learning of others or threatens safety and well-being. Jaden is disrupting others, and he's a threat to other students. He may hurt someone.
Yeah, but we can't make this judgment without implementing preventative strategies. Yeah. When thinking about strategies, I think we need to link back to supporting students' behaviour needs document and think about behaviour communicating needs, perhaps, like linking to goal-centred theory and choice theory. I think Jaden could be communicating needs that he's not receiving.
Yeah, I agree. I think that before we plan the strategies, we need to find out a bit more information. So, for example, what do we already know about Jaden? Does he have any learning support needs that aren't being met? What's the context of his behaviour? I think that we need to record this maybe in like a table to give us, allow us to evaluate the outcomes, as some approaches might not work. I have some ideas actually for interventions. So I was thinking the use of like a hall pass, which he could use if he's feeling overwhelmed or if he's feeling anxious. It allows him to get out of class, but he has to go either to the counsellor or to Mr. Franks, the boys' advisor. I was thinking as well explicit use of teaching social and emotional capabilities. So for example, modelling a role playing maybe in peer support groups to assist students in learning positive coping strategies. Also positive reinforcement and feedback, of course, and collaborative and cooperative learning strategies, so where students can learn from peers just in the everyday classroom.
After consecutive meetings and sharing of ideas, the faculty came up with a thorough support plan. The behavioural focus of the support plan document is student-centred and involves William Glass's choice theory, utilising a range of wants, doing, evaluation and planning questions. The social focus area is student-centred, employing counselling and mental health strategies, introducing the practice of using a hall pass to allow Jaden to remove himself from anxiety-inducing situations and seek support. The emotional focus area is a whole school approach that utilises a peer support program focused around social and emotional learning to develop positive coping strategies, and the cognitive or educational focus area uses small groups to develop skills in collaborative learning.
Okay, Jane, what's going on?
Oh, I don't know, sir. I'm just feeling frustrated with all my teachers. They get angry with me straight away if I don't have my book with me or don't hand in my work on time. I just told them I don't want to do my work.
Well, why aren't you bringing your books in or handing your work in?
Well, I'm helping my mum a lot since she's unwell, and to be honest, I forgot and I just don't have the time. I have so many other things to do.
So then what were you wanting to achieve when you yelled at Miss Bar Humbug and flipped his chair? I understand the situations can be frustrating and sometimes we tend to behave in a way that gives us instant relief from this. What else do you think you could have said to Miss Bar Humbug?
Well, she wouldn't have listened anyway.
I think if you explain to Miss Bar Humbug the challenge of the task in class and your frustrations, she may understand what you're trying to communicate and maybe why you don't want to participate.
Well, maybe if I talk to her it might help. I can see why flipping the chair and yelling doesn't tell me why I don't have my books or why I don't want to work.
I see that you get along with Miss Planner, the counsellor. Perhaps you can have a chat with her, or what can we come up with ideas together for you to make things that work better for you? Can you think of anything else you could do in this situation? We could even come up with some general responses that you could have up your sleeve. We can also create a plan that would help you achieve the outcome you want. We can do this by working on goals, your own expectations for yourself, and how you can actually make positive changes in the class. How about you check with me once a week? You may even want to record this somewhere in a book.
Thanks, sir. I'd like to meet again and work on this.
These questions allow Jaden to reflect in a safe space in regards to his aggressive behaviour in the classroom. As behaviour can be seen as a function of its environment, it is important to address what may be occurring before Jaden displays challenging behaviour in the classroom and what type of reinforcers or punishers are being utilised. Since then, Jaden has been self-reflecting and a plan has been developed. While strong in its execution, there is no empirical evidence to support that choice theory enhances student efficacy and participation. Moreover, implementing this same approach with more than one student in a classroom decreases individual support, as needs are less likely to be met.
The next area of intervention is social support. Jaden is socially withdrawn in all aspects of his school life. The literature has identified that young people who have a parent with a cancer diagnosis have a higher number of unmet socio-emotional needs and, as a consequence, higher levels of psychological distress than other peers who have healthy parents. Here, the application of mental health strategies would include offering counselling and individualised support. Research demonstrates that students' sense of school belonging, the extent to which students feel personally accepted and included by others, is associated with healthier psychological functioning and individual implementation of positive mental health coping strategies. Adolescents are in a time in which adult connections have added significance for students' sense of school belonging. Here, the implementation of a hall pass is an effective means of allowing students, when they are feeling overwhelmed or anxious, to remove themselves from the situation and seek support with a specific teacher or the school counsellor, working to build the much-needed interpersonal relationships within the school. Researchers have shown that the relationships with non-parental adults, such as teachers, may be more important for adolescents than for younger students, as potentially exert even stronger effects for motivation. According to the Psychological and Emotional Wellbeing Needs of Children and Young People, Models for Effective Practice in Educational Settings final report, which was prepared for the DEC in 2011, programs are more likely to be effective if they are aimed at promoting mental health and assist students to develop adaptive, cognitive and behavioural strategies. the continuing presence of and easy access to appropriate adult staff who are placed in a mentoring role, such as the boys advisor within the school, provide a stable relationship between the student and the school staff as an important aspect of program delivery. Hi Ms. Barhumbug, I had a chat to Jaden and we're helping him with more of his communication barriers that he seems to be experiencing. However, I was wondering if you can tell me what behaviour he's kind of displaying right before his aggressive outbursts.
Well, when I ask Jaden to get his books out, he either blatantly ignores me or simply just has no work on them. So I send him outside immediately, and that's when things usually escalate.
Okay, well, have you tried giving Jaden some choice? Like, he still requires limits within this, but students need to feel like they can contribute. For example, you could say like, Jaden, I need you to start your work for the day, or if you feel like you need a break, you can use your hall pass to go see the counsellor or Mr. Frank.
But it's just a cop-out. Jaden is failing these subjects and needs to be in class and completing the work. How else is he going to learn anything?
Well, the aim of giving Jaden a choice of staying in class or using his hall pass to go see the counsellor or the boys advisor is to keep the situation from escalating when it does not need to, really. If the negative dialogue persists and Jaden becomes more aggressive, being verbally abusive, you need to keep the situation calm. So saying, Jaden, maybe you should consider using your hall pass, or he's then allowed to leave the classroom, take himself to the counsellor or the boys advisor, Mr. Frank, whichever he feels more comfortable going to see. So you do not give Jaden the opportunity to argue and escalate the conflict further.
During adolescence, peer groups present an important venue for socializing school-related behaviors such as academic achievement and school engagement. While a significant body of research emphasizes the link between a youth's immediate peer group and academic outcomes, the current manuscript expands on this idea, proposing that, in addition to smaller peer groups, within each school exists a school-wide peer culture that is comprised of two components, a relational and a behavioral component, each of which is related to individual academic outcomes. The relational component describes the aggregate of students' perceptions of the quality of peer relationships within each school. The behavioral component is an aggregate representation of students' actual behaviors in regard to academic tasks. Research suggests that above and beyond a variety of individual, peer, and school characteristics that have previously been associated with academic outcomes, aspects of behavioral peer culture are associated with individual achievement, while components of both relational and behavioral peer culture are related to school engagement. Moreover, schools are the most successful in their educational endeavor through the consideration and integration of students' academic, social, and emotional learning in their school and career. By integrating the social emotional learning in the peer support program, the intervention strategy for Jaden aims at assisting Jaden in employing the ability to cope with his tragic circumstances in collaboration with his peers. Thus, Jaden receives the extra support that he needs through the school's peer support program. Trained Year 12 students involved in the program help him cope with and overcome his external stressors through guidance provided by the school counsellor.
Hello Year 12. As a part of our school's yearly peer support program, the next 4 sessions are based on social and emotional learning. This means that you will be helping your peers to improve their ability to integrate their thinking, feeling and behaving to achieve important life tasks. It is important to be competent in SEL as it helps to recognise and manage our emotions and establish healthy relationships, set positive goals and meet our personal and social needs. So most importantly, activities involved in these sessions will teach us how to positively employ coping strategies as well as how to overcome external stresses in our lives. Now, work with your partner and go through the activities prepared to be used in next week's session. Actually, Jordan and Alex, I'd like you to discuss next Wednesday's session with you. I want you to work with Jaden, who needs a little extra help these days as he's going through a bit of a rough time. Now, can you please look at next week's activities and come up with some ideas on how to run the session with him? As you can see, he's going to answer some questions about his feelings and how he demonstrates them. So, yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can start a natural conversation with him by asking how he's doing in school, and then maybe I can get him after that answer as many questions as he can.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds very good, Jordan. And Alex, can you maybe make sure that he gets support on his academic studies? So I know that he's struggling with his assignments and he's behind in his maths and English classes in particular.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to focus more on the academic. I see if he needs any help during the lessons. I can help him with assignments maybe as well.
Yeah.
That'd be alright.
Yeah.
And then support him maybe with the parts he's not understanding or struggling with.
Yeah, that sounds great. So depending on how you go with him this week, we'll plan next week's session and extra activities if necessary. So thank you a lot for your help, guys. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Lastly, Jaden is underperforming in a number of subjects as he is not handing in assignments or completing small task work, as well as missing class. Curriculum and pedagogy support involves providing a great deal of positive feedback both in and outside the classroom. This helps improve Jaden's self-efficacy as well as his student-teacher relationship. Also, collaborative learning has been shown to be extremely beneficial to student learning, as mentioned in the 21st Century Skills for Australian Students document produced by the DEC. In this case, as Jaden has been uncooperative in group work, providing him with sufficient notice of the impending task and allowing him to choose one of his group members may be effective in providing an environment in which he is comfortable and willing to contribute and complete tasks.
Okay guys, so today we are working on a new group project. So what we're going to do is we're going to split into groups of 4, as you can see on the board. So everybody in your group is going to have a role or a job. The 4 roles that we have are presenter, note taker, someone to question or critique your group's ideas, and someone to keep everybody else on task. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room and you get to pick your role as well as your group. So we're going to start here. Jaden, you can have a think about what you'd like to do. We'll start here and go around. So if you want, you can work with Billy. And as I explain the roles, just have a think about what you might like to do. I know, we love group work.
No.
I'm very, very excited because all of you get to become the experts in your group. Alright, so you get to be the experts teaching the rest of the class. The presenter will present to everybody and I cannot wait to hear what you come up with.
'Cause I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along.